My name is James Carter, and I spent 54 years in prison. I was just 17 when they locked me up. 17. I barely knew what life was before it was taken away from me. I never got to fall in love, never got to buy my first car, never even had my first legal drink. While the world outside kept moving forward, I stayed frozen in time. The only thing that changed was me. Growing older, year after year, behind bars, I watched decades pass from the inside of a cell. The world changed. Technology, fashion, the way people spoke, the way they lived. But in there, time stood still. I remember hearing about the moon landing over a broken radio. I remember hearing about the invention of the internet, of smartphones, of social media, but I never got to experience any of it. Then, after 54 years, I walked out, and I had no idea how to live. The day I was released, they handed me a set of clothes, a little bit of money, and said, "Good luck." But how do you start over when you've never even begun? I remember stepping outside the prison gates, looking around and realizing I had nowhere to go. No family, no friends, nowhere to sleep, no idea how to survive. I didn't even know how to cross the street properly. Cars were moving too fast, lights were blinking, people were rushing past me like I wasn't even there. The world I had left was gone, and the world I had entered, it didn't have a place for me. The first thing I had to learn was something simple to all of you, but to me it was like learning to walk for the first time. Money. When I went to prison, $1 could buy you a meal. Now, I didn't even understand how prices worked. I walked into a store, picked up a loaf of bread, and stared at the digital cash register like it was some kind of alien technology. The cashier looked at me like I was crazy. "It's $3.99, she said. I pulled out a $5 bill, and then I just stood there, waiting. She handed me back $1 and a coin. I stared at the coin in my hand. What the hell is this, I thought. Turns out, quarters weren't the same anymore. Even the money had changed. Then came cell phones. The first time someone handed me one, I didn't even know how to turn it on. I kept tapping the screen, expecting buttons to appear. "No, swipe it," they said. Swipe? What do you mean, swipe? I had never even touched a touch screen before. The last time I saw a phone, it had a rotary dial. And now people were walking around with tiny computers in their pockets. I was like a caveman stepping into the future. But the hardest part? It wasn't the technology. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even learning how to buy a cup of coffee without embarrassing myself. The hardest part was being alone. 54 years. I went in with people I called friends. Not a single one of them was there when I got out. My parents, gone. My siblings, gone. The home I grew up in, someone else lives there now. I had spent my whole life trapped inside four walls, and when I finally got out, I realized I had nowhere to go. I thought freedom would feel like a second chance. But when you don't have a single person in the world waiting for you, freedom feels a lot like another kind of prison. I wandered for days, homeless, lost, wondering if I had made a mistake wanting to leave. And then one day, a stranger sat down next to me on a park bench. He was just an old man reading his newspaper. He looked at me, saw the confusion in my face, and asked, "Son, are you okay?" And that was the first time in 54 years that someone looked at me like I was a human being. I told him my story, and do you know what he did? He didn't judge me. He didn't walk away. He took me to a diner and bought me my first meal as a free man. I had forgotten what a warm meal tasted like. That one act of kindness, it changed everything. It reminded me that I still mattered, that I still had a chance, that maybe, just maybe, I could start again. And that's why I'm here today, not to talk about my past, not to ask for sympathy, but to tell you this: no matter how much time has been lost, no matter how broken you feel, it is never too late to begin again. I'm learning how to live at 64 years old. I'm learning how to buy groceries, how to use a phone, how to hold a conversation that isn't behind bars. I don't know what the future holds for me, but for the first time in my life, I finally have one. This is just the beginning. For 54 years, I was trapped behind walls I thought I'd never escape. But I've learned something. The real prison isn't just made of bars and chains. It's made of doubt. It's made of fear. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: you are never too lost to be found. You are never too broken to heal. And no matter how much time has passed, you are never too late to start again. I don't know what tomorrow holds for me, but for the first time in my life, I finally believe that I have one. Because freedom isn't just about walking through open doors. It's about believing that there's still something waiting for you on the other side.